UFC 137, Mirko Cro Cop versus Roy Big Country Nelson. Before we get into that, let me ask you a question. There's been a lot of guys that come from Pride, and some guys have done well, other guys have not.
Cro Cop's biggest deficit is experience. He just doesn't have very much MMA experience. You know, he did the K1 thing. K1's not a great striking event. It's a striking only event. If you participate in K1, you're only allowed to strike. And a lot of people think it's this great striking event, which of course, with 2 syllables, we discredit Bob Sapp. So we know that K1 isn't real. Okay, fair enough. We've got Pride. You know, you've got this Japanese circuit where they favor entertainment over legitimacy. When these guys come to the U.S. and that referee's not wearing an earpiece, when they come to the UFC and the promoter's sitting ringside, he's not in the back in a locker room with a walkie-talkie talking to the referee, you start to find out it really is as real as it gets. And he just doesn't have any experience. He matches up with a guy named Roy Nelson. Roy Nelson's a very good fighter. He's constantly improving, and he's a hard-working journeyman. You know, he's got in there. He's battled his way through the ranks. It's really hard for Mirko, just because he doesn't have the experience. He doesn't have, you know, he's got 5, 6, 7, 8 MMA fights in his whole life, versus a guy like Big Country who's got close to 30.
Okay, so there's very few fighters that I dislike. Roy's one of them. Can't stand him. Personally, I think he's going to win, but do I want to see him lose? Absolutely. That's just really, at the end of the day, my own opinion. Statistically, though, I think he's going to win. I think he's got the tools to do it, but what about the cardio? How do you change a guy like this who's just, I don't know if he's lazy or he just doesn't want to work, put in the effort, but he's got the skills. How do you work with a guy like that?
You know, Roy's had some really great matches, and he came through a different company known as the IFL. He came through a different company known as Bodog. And when he finally got to the UFC, he really did a very good job. And he had one performance where you watch and go, oh my goodness, that's almost not even Roy out there, and it was his last one. And in this sport, you're only as good as your last fight. He did not look good against Frank Mir. But Roy really didn't look like Roy. I think that Frank would beat him, but I think that the gap between them should have been a lot closer, and it really came down to the cardio. Frank pushed harder, Roy shut down. I also have a feeling that with the 5 months since that fight, Roy's focused on that, and he's made some changes. I know he's brought in training partners. I know he's brought in new coaches to work with. I really feel that won't be such a liability to him in this fight. But I'm with you. You know, look, you can't make the same mistake multiple times out there, and cardio and level of fitness has seemed to plague him a little bit.
Okay, so you are calling?
I'm taking Roy Nelson. I'm taking it handily, and I truly mean this. I hope Cro Cop doesn't get hurt. I just can't watch him be carried out of that ring anymore.
I'm going with Roy Nelson. As much as I hate to say it, I do. You're going with Roy Nelson.
And I'm proud to say it.